Hi, my name is Chris Durhan. Welcome to another episode of Drinks from Eddie Muller's Noir Bar. Each week I take a chapter from the book Eddie Muller's Noir Bar, Cocktails Inspired by the World of Film Noir, and I talk about the film in that chapter and I make the drink associated with it. Today we're going to look at the film Phantom Lady and make the drink Pinchin' Water. Now, Phantom Lady was made in 1944. It was produced by Joan Harrison, and she's kind of a legend in the world of film noir and suspense thriller movies. She started out as Alfred Hitchcock's protege. She was hired as a secretary, but she was so good with stories that she ended up becoming a story editor for Hitchcock. And then she later went out on her own, produced her own films, and in the mid-50s she was hired by Hitchcock again to be the executive producer of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Now, the film is directed by Robert Siodmak, kind of a legend in the world of film noir himself. It's based on a story by Cornell Woolrich, writing as William Irish, I believe, and Cornell Woolrich is probably best known for writing the short story that Rear Window was based on. So lot of good film noir cred here, and they use it for all it's worth. The story is a man has just had a fight with his wife. He's in a bar drinking and he meets a woman. He offers her tickets to a show that he's not going to be able to use, and she doesn't want them, and he asks her again, and she agrees to go to the show with him provided they just keep it casual and don't even exchange names. So they do that. They enjoy the show. He comes home to find his wife has been murdered, has been strangled with one of his neckties. And he ends up, trying to profess his innocence, which he is innocent. But one of the parts of the story that doesn't really fit in is he always insists that there was this woman involved, which was, but all of the witnesses who remember seeing him don't remember the woman. And as a result, he ends up being convicted and sentenced to death. So Ella Raines, his secretary, who is secretly in love with him, decides to go out and clear his name, and she starts investigating the crime herself. Now, you may be wondering why I'm wearing a hat. I am wearing a hat mostly because a woman's hat, figures prominently in the storyline here. So I'm wearing my film noir hat in honor of that. It has nothing to do with the fact that I bashed the crap out of my head when I was moving boxes to let workers get in to change our water heater. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's all about Phantom Lady. So, really good movie. I mean, just one of those ones that works really, really well and kind of played for all it's worth. It's a great little film. One of the things that stands out to me is one of the things that stands out to me is the scene toward the end where they're in Franchot Tone's apartment, and just the design on that is perfect for what you would expect a 1940s rich sociopath's apartment would look like. It's awesome. Now, one of the things that I went and I rewatched the intro and outro for this film when they showed it on Noir Alley, and they had guests for that, and that would have been Rose and Vince Keenan. Vince Keenan is the managing editor of the Film Noir Foundation's magazine, and Rose is kind of a film noir fashion expert, and she also, with her husband, their team, write as a writer Renee Patrick, and they do a series of novels that are based on a fictional private detective who teams up with Edith Head to solve Hollywood murders. And I vaguely remember that being on TV and thinking, oh, I should go out and find those, and I never did. But I went out and ordered one just now, so it should be showing up in about a week, so yay me. All right, now, one of the other things that came up in the intro outro of the film was the story of the costume designer, and her name was, I'm looking at my notes, was Vera West. And she's one of those people that has a backstory that sounds like something from a film noir film. And I would suggest, if you're interested, I don't want to do it short service. You probably should just go out and look at the intro and outro for this film. It's a really interesting story. So one of the things that I can say that I think is kind of important was, apparently when Vera West, when she was designing clothes, she was kind of designing clothes with Joan Harrison in mind. So that's, if you look at what Ella Raines looks like, imagine that behind the scenes is another woman, Joan Harrison, who looks a lot like that, which I think is actually very cool. All right, so I'm going to take a short break, and then I'll come back and make the drink, although there isn't much making to it, but we'll be back in just a flash. I hope you stick around for that. We're back. So the drink we're having today is Pinch and Water, and this is a drink that actually shows up in the film. She orders, Ella Raines orders it as Pinch Bottle and Water, which would be this particular scotch, which is a Dimple Pinch scotch. And you can definitely see that that's the bottle the bartender pulls out and pours her drink from. So now I'm going to tell you some stuff about scotch. Not a fan of scotch, okay? I've had scotch before, haven't really liked it, okay? And I have a friend who's very much into scotch, and he's even offered to do a scotch tasting with me, and I'm sure he probably has great scotch, because he's the type of person who gets the best of everything when he's totally into that, and he's totally into scotch. The thing is, I think that I haven't taken him up on that, mostly because I just don't think scotch is my thing, and this kind of proved that. Now, when I talked to him about scotch, when I needed to get some scotch for doing this video series, I asked him what he thought a good, budget scotch would be. And he said, well, what do you mean by budget? And I go, I don't know, like maybe $30 or less. And he goes, how about like $50 or less? I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I'm not really that into buying a $50 bottle that I may or may not actually like. But I said, and so he gave me some suggestions, and I said, well, hey, what do you think of Dimple Pinch? And he said, you know what? That's a little bit too sweet for my taste. And I was like, sweet? Hey, that's awesome. I love bourbon. Bourbon's very sweet. This is possibly a very bourbon-ish scotch. So I figured I would get that. So I went and bought this bottle for neighborhood of about $40. And so we're going to pour some right now. So it says 3 ounces in the book. I'm just going to guess at that. That's probably a little shy of 3 ounces, but there you go. I'm going to do water with it because I've tasted this and I think water is going to help. So we're going to do a little bit of water, not too much. Maybe a little more than that. So here we go. Now, I've tried this before. I'm going to try it again and see if I get the same reaction to it as I got from it before. Yep, there you go. Now, here's the thing. I don't like scotch. This, I've never tried gasoline. Never tasted it. Never, actually, I've siphoned gas from a car, but I've never gotten any in my mouth. But I would assume that if I got some gas in my mouth, it would probably taste not unlike this. Wow. Now, I would think that maybe it was just, this is the gasoline-y variety of scotch. So I went out, there was another scotch drink I had to do, and I went out and bought a bottle of Monkey Shoulder, which was recommended online as being a good scotch, especially for mixing drinks. I tried some of that, and I did like it better than the Dimple Pinch. It had less of a prominent gasoline flavor, so I did like it better than the Dimple Pinch, but that's not to say I like it by any means. I even went out and bought a small bottle of Johnnie Walker Black Label, and I tried that. And if I had to compare the three of them, I like the Johnnie Walker Black Label, and then the Monkey Shoulder, and then the Dimple Pinch. But the only really nice thing I can say about the Johnnie Walker Black is that it tastes less gasoline-y than the Dimple Pinch or the Monkey Shoulder, and the Monkey Shoulder tastes less gasoline-y than the Dimple Pinch. So there you go. I just don't think I like scotch. So I don't have a good solution for this. Well, yes, I kind of do. I can take this glass of Dimple Pinch of water, and I can just push it off to the side and take a new glass and get out a nice bourbon and do a bourbon. And maybe add some water to it. And we'll try this, and we will pretend this is pinch and water. Oh yeah, yeah, much better. Actually, the Dimple Pinch is smoother than this, but still, I like this. The flavor, I like this a lot better. I don't know what it is about scotch. Maybe it's the peat flavor I don't like. Maybe it's the fact that the peat is coming from a field somewhere that has centuries of, you know, Scotsman, kilted Scotsman's ball sweat soaking down into the peat and giving it that flavor that gives scotch its real signature thing. I really don't know, but I am not a scotch person. So hopefully I don't have too many more scotch drinks to get through in this book. I think this is my 20th video, so that puts me, what, about 40% into it. I hope there aren't many more scotches to go because I really don't like it. And my surrogate scotch, aka bourbon, will have to suffice. So from a booth in the back of Eddie Muller's Noir Bar, we're going to say cheers and pretend this is scotch. See you next week.